When were you born?
I was born in a little manger on a camel.
Some time ago.
Some time ago.
What war had we just fought or were about to fight?
Civil. No one was civil. Oh, no. Jeez. Music speaks to people, speaks to me. And if you listen to the music, every piece of music has something to say. I felt that way if I played a composition for the 500th time. The song does not get old to me. Yeah, I didn't realize that you could make a career out of music. I had no idea. When I play the organ, I'm conducting, more or less. And I'm putting everything I can into it. And it might be psychedelic. I never thought of that, to tell you the truth, because it's so one with me. Music I've always loved, but music is like breathing to me. You know, it's like trying to be paid for breathing. I like to think the organ is very expressive. All the songs on my albums have been requested sometime or other. I had a lot of requests from Misty. Look at me. I can tell you how many people were proposed, made a proposition, proposed to their wife in the clubs. They'll tell me afterwards they've been married. So I know it's always a joy. I love music, and it's always a joy to play. One night, I was playing with a friend of mine, and this lady kind of objected the way I got out of the organ bar because she wouldn't move for me. And I said, well, I'd have to go past your legs. And she says to her husband, "Do you hear what he said to me?" There were 500 people in my hometown. And there were no organs, of course. It was all piano. There was a Pentecost, a Baptist, a Methodist, and a Christian church. They speak in tongues, and it's quite interesting, really. You get the Holy Ghost, and they sing. We used to go in just to listen to the music because it was really interesting. My father, he worked on the railroad, engineer on Illinois Central. And then he got pneumonia, they removed a rib, and that was the end of that. So then he had a restaurant in Patoka. My mother taught all 8 grades in one room. And I remember her telling me one time that it was difficult telling the family why they should use different toothbrushes instead of just one for the family. That was her health program, is to get everybody to have separate toothbrushes. We had an oil well in our backyard, but they had, in Salem, Illinois, they really struck a lot of oil. My Uncle Sam had a lot of oil wells on his property, and he was a very rich man from the time. And first they did was put plumbing in their house, and The first thing they did was put a toilet in the kitchen. For plumbing. The plumbing went around the side of the house, inside. I left Patoka when I graduated from high school. I went right to university, Southern Illinois. Oh, there were composition and theory. The teachers were not that strict, but the music was. I had a lot to learn because my ignorance was compelled by the city I lived in, and it was an eye-opener to me. I had been high school wasn't too enlightening, I'll put it that way. And when I got to university, it was just, my mind just flew. It was just, I couldn't believe all the things I didn't know. I had a job ushering in the theater in Chicago. When I'd usher, they would give me tips such as a package of cigarettes, bubble gum. Some man came to visit one time and wanted to know if I'd like to go and play the organ, in church. And I don't know how that happened. I said, yes, I'd like to. And so it was a Hammond organ. It was one of the first ones they made. And this man set me down at the organ, turned it on, and set some of the stops for me. And I started playing, and I said, wow, wow. And he said, you can make different sounds if you draw the drawbars. You can make different. So I drew the drawbars, and I found out that you could make different sounds, your own sounds, from that organ. I couldn't believe it. So I don't know how long I was there, and this man just guided me through all this. To this day, I think it must have been Mr. Hammond himself. I really do. Lorenz Hammond.
That's true.
And I couldn't get it out of my mind. Out west, I hitchhiked out west one time, and there was a lady there who played organ, and she had an organ, and I couldn't believe she owned the organ. She said, would you like to play? I said, yes. So I sat down at the organ, and I played. And she says, if you ever come to Chicago, I can get you a job, playing. I thought, job? Work never occurred to me. So I went to work, and been working ever since. Something I never had been into bars or into entertainment or anything at all in my life. I went to university, and after that I had to make a living of some sort, and I taught for a while, and that wasn't for me. And I was in Chicago. The agent says, I can get you a job right away. Many places, but one of the big places I played was in Indiana, and across the border. It's Calumet City is where it was. Known as the Sin City of the country, I guess. It was a very famous town because there's one bar after another, and it was all kind of dancers were dancing in all these different places. Before a 21-year-old who It was wild at the time. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah.
It's where I met Sally Rand, to be exact. We became good friends. Sally Rand is a fan dancer. She started dancing at the Chicago World's Fair, became very famous, and traveled all over the world doing a fan dance. And the strange thing about Sally Miss Rand, is that she would not dance to an orchestra, and only play to the Hammond organ, only dance to the Hammond organ. She danced to Chopin's number, and did a beautiful job, really. It's excellent. It was very tasty. But you never saw anything because she kept the fans, one fan here, one fan in the back, one fan so forth. And at the end, she put the fans behind her, there she was nude. And when it came to the part where da 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 da, her fans would go da 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 da. Then when it da 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 da, and she put the fans behind her, and it would show her off. You know, it'd be a backdrop. Beautifully done. This doll was given to me by a lady who makes these dolls. I don't know how she does it. I have no idea. Supposedly me. She even put little socks on it. She used to bring in a clown almost every week. And then one day she brought this in. And I have been transfixed ever since. Brought it in kind of a coffin. The kids thought it was a coffin anyway. They just thought the whole thing was creepy. But I like it. Look at me like that. Oh. 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 I liked that kvass. I think that was my favorite drink. I knew that some nights there might be a little more than I could take, but I always enjoyed it. People were enjoying it at the same time, so we were all about the same level. I was visiting a friend up in San Pedro at the time. We were doing some recording and practicing together. And on the way home, I had a few drinks, but nothing that I couldn't drive with, you know. And there was a filling station, and I said, "Fill it up, and I'll be right back." And I went to the restroom, and he looked at me very strange. You know, there's brickbats, there's boxes. There's trash in the street. I said, "There's some broken glass." I said, "Oh my, things are on fire over there." You know? And I came home, and the next day I looked at the newspaper, Watts Riot. And I was right in the middle of Watts Riot and didn't know it at the time. Just like everyone else at that time was experimenting in this and that and so on. And the drugs I had was given to me by a doctor here in the States and was sent to me in France and Germany. I met a Dutch pianist there who asked me, "Does drugs make you play better?" I said, "I don't know. I have no idea." He says, "Here, I have some," and we were walking by Shaggy Pesh at that time, which is the jazz place, and one of the guys was standing out in front. And he looks at him and says, "Hey, do drugs make you play better?" And the guy says, "We'll find out." He just grabbed him swallowed all the handful of drugs. I thought I was never going to stand up straight again.
Did you see his performance that night?
Yes, it's good. Yeah. I couldn't tell him that. That was good. So I like France. I love Paris. I love Paris. The music was just great. Paris, where I met my wife, there was a very romantic feeling that was helpful. It's the strangest thing. We were in a club, and they're walking through the club, and I saw her, and I just dropped. I knew the moment I saw her that that was it. And all these years I've been going with girls and with women, and none of them hit me like this. So I knew immediately. Got married at the Glass Chapel in Portuguese band. The sun was setting at the time, sitting in the back, and the clouds are all beautifully colored, and then she came down the aisle. It was very hard to stand up there and not go after her. We've been married 41 years. We raised 4 children, and they're all happy and doing very well now. This lady came in with her maid, and she sat down at the end at the piano organ board, and she says, would you play Around the World in 80 days? I said, yes. So I played Around the World in 80 days, and she cried a little bit, and then she'd say to the maid, would you call me a taxi, please? And then taxi would come, and she'd say, tell it to go. So the taxi would go. And she'd always ask me, around the world in 80 days, please. I played again. Then she'd start for the door. Then she came back and sat down with her maid, and she said, play around the world in 80 days again. So I just did it just to, it was amusing to everyone. So finally, she said, play it one more time, please. So I played it one more time. She got up, and she started toward the door. She got out the door, and all you could see was her hand around, going like this. Then she left. Oh, and the thing she was celebrating was her divorce. And she finally told us, she says, he didn't love me. He never loved me. All he ever did was write me out checks. Everybody was, oh yes, yes. Someone bought her a drink, and it was green chartreuse. And she said, who bought me this drink? And he pointed out to the guy. And she took the drink, went over and poured it over his head. Around the world, in many ways, and for many days. For 30 days, is it? 60 days? Around the world in many days. It was wonderful. Wunderbar. That reminds me of a woman I found, ran into at night in Berlin. And she says, come with me, young man, I'll show you something wunderbar.
What did she show you?
I forgot. I was so excited at the time that I forgot that I had to pay to see Wunderbar. I really didn't know what was going on. Except one little girl I ran into one time was in the bushes, and I ran into her, and she said, oh, scared to death, and I was too. I loved Europe. I had a wonderful time. I love music. All my heart, body, and soul.